Good evening from Beirut, a city filled with tension and anxiety tonight as the Israeli army's chief has ordered his soldiers to prepare for a possible ground invasion. He warned that their combat boots may soon be on the ground, signaling an escalation of conflict. His remarks come amid intensified assaults on both sides, with international leaders gathering at the UN in New York. US President Joe Biden, speaking at the UN, has warned that a full-scale war in the Middle East is a real possibility, but he also emphasized that there is still a chance for diplomacy. British citizens in Lebanon have been urged by Prime Minister Rishi Sunak to leave the country immediately, as Israel has targeted over 2,000 Hezbollah sites in recent strikes. Lebanon has seen waves of airstrikes on rocket launchers, weapons depots, and other military infrastructure. So far, at least 51 people have been reported dead in Lebanon, with more than 200 UN personnel injured. Hezbollah has continued to intensify its attacks on both Israeli civilians and military sites. Today, for the first time, Hezbollah launched a ballistic missile toward Tel Aviv, which was intercepted by Israeli defense systems. The Israeli army chief, while visiting soldiers near the border, instructed them to prepare for potential operations inside Lebanon. "Your boots will soon be on enemy soil," he said, indicating that military operations are imminent. Tanks and other heavy military equipment have already been spotted moving toward the border, with reservists being called up. For now, however, the threat remains largely rhetorical, as Israeli citizens living near the northern border continue to evacuate. Towns like Kiryat Shmona, once home to 24,000 people, now have only a few thousand residents left, with most of the population displaced due to frequent rocket attacks. The Israeli army reports that over 800 buildings, many of them homes, have been damaged. In southern Lebanon, the bombardment continues. Israeli airstrikes have targeted around 60 sites throughout the day. Loud explosions and ambulance sirens fill the streets of Tyre, and the death toll continues to rise. In one of today's attacks, a residential area was hit, with apartment buildings damaged. 50 people were killed in the bombing today alone, adding to the hundreds who have died since Monday. Hezbollah's response has been steady, but not overwhelming, with periodic rocket fire into Israel. The situation remains volatile, and fears of escalation are widespread. Meanwhile, the UK has urged its citizens to leave Lebanon immediately. Isabella Baker, a British student studying human rights in Lebanon, expressed frustration with her government's response. "The UK government needs to do more," she said. "Yes, they should prioritize the safety of their citizens, but they should also address the root causes of this conflict." In Tyre, civil defense workers continue their efforts despite the relentless bombing. Ali Safad, who lost his daughter in the 2006 conflict during an Israeli airstrike, is among those trying to help. "My wife was severely injured, and now we live in constant fear," he says. "We are just trying to save lives." Diplomatically, the situation remains tense. At the UN, world leaders are holding last-minute meetings to try and prevent a broader conflict. Within an hour, an Emergency Security Council session will be held to discuss the crisis. Diplomatic efforts are in full swing, with world leaders urging restraint. Some diplomats remain cautiously optimistic, hoping that the Israeli talk of a ground invasion is merely brinkmanship and not an imminent reality. However, discussions are ongoing, particularly with Iranian officials, urging them to use their influence on Hezbollah to de-escalate the situation. UK Foreign Secretary David Lammy and other key leaders are pushing for a ceasefire, although much will depend on whether the US, with its significant leverage over Israel, is willing to support such measures. In Jerusalem, the situation remains just as uncertain. Jeremy Bowen, reporting live, highlights the grim reality. The battles I've witnessed in Lebanon have been devastating for civilians and the country as a whole. As it stands, Israel seems to be preparing for a ground invasion unless a major diplomatic breakthrough occurs soon. Airstrikes continue at an unprecedented pace, with Lebanese officials reporting that more than 500 civilians have been killed since Monday. Israel believes that by inflicting such hardship, Hezbollah will eventually be forced to stop firing rockets into Israel. However, based on past behavior, Hezbollah is unlikely to back down anytime soon. The likelihood of Israel achieving the security it seeks for its northern citizens remains uncertain, and should a ground offensive begin, it will not be a swift or easy operation. Lebanon's history shows that there are no quick victories, and the situation could become far more complicated in the day.